Hey folks, this is Riker with a video about the newest upcoming Path of Exile expansion. And the moment I saw the title of this expansion, I was already grinning ear to ear because it is Path of Exile Heist. Grinding Gear Games invited me to the virtual press tour for their upcoming expansion, in which Chris Wilson revealed the details about Heist and everything that we can expect with this coming league. And from everything I've heard so far, this has the potential to be my favorite league of all time, and Chris Wilson himself said that this is his favorite expansion that they've done in quite some time. So what exactly is Heist League all about? Well, just like in your favorite heist movie, you gotta put together a team, infiltrate your target location, steal whatever MacGuffin you're looking for, and then escape. And how that works in Path of Exile is that you're going to travel to a place called the Rogue Harbor. There you're going to meet a crew of thieves, and you can hire various thieves to assist you with tasks on your heist. Stuff like lockpicking, transportation, disarming traps, and you're going to get to choose who you want to bring with you. Once you're on the heist itself, you're going to be looking to find the artifact you're coming to steal, and there'll be different obstacles to overcome that your hired thieves can help you with. And there will also be guards around, but if you keep a low profile, you won't set off the alarm. Regardless of how sneaky you are though, once you grab the artifact, the alarm will go off. And that's when all the guards in the facility start coming for you. And then your objective is to get out. If you do manage to succeed in escaping with the artifact, then you can trade that in at the Rogue Harbor for payment. And each successful heist builds towards your ultimate goal of a grand heist. And I must say that I am loving the NPC design in Heist. Now, how do we get to the Rogue Harbor and start going on heists? Well, it all comes down to this new currency called a marker. You'll get markers to drop in regular play, and it costs 1 marker to visit the Rogue Harbor, and then it can cost you different amounts to hire thieves. Now, these thieves, these crew members that you hire, they're called rogues, because it's the Rogue Harbor, so. The name Rogue Encampment was already taken. Now, 4 out of 13 of these rogues help with the setup of a heist. They provide things like intelligence or transportation, and then the other 9 have specialized skills useful on the field on the heist itself. Things like lockpicking, things like crawling through vents, breaking open doors, disarming laser traps. And as your rogue is completing an objective like picking a lock, you want to be there protecting him because it takes some time for him to pick that lock, and if an enemy hits him, while your NPCs can't die, it will reset their progress. And on a regular heist, you can only hire 1 to come with you on the field, and in a grand heist, you can bring 3, so you have choices to make. And every time one of your heists is successful, any rogue you may have brought with you will gain experience, and thus level up, become more powerful and more useful. Further, each rogue has 1 main skill and then 3 sub-skills. So while you might have 1 rogue who specializes in lockpicking, you can instead take a rogue who has lockpicking as just one of his sub-skills and still be able to unlock doors. So this whole part of things very much reminds me of old school classic RPGs like Baldur's Gate, even more recent ones like Divinity Original Sin, where you're putting together a team, you want to have complementary abilities. And Chris Wilson said that part of the motivation in coming up with Heist was playing around with the hireling system, seeing how could that work in Path of Exile, testing the waters a bit there. Another type of new world drop introduced this league are contracts, and these are basically the heist versions of maps. So just like maps, these could be crafted, make the risk and reward greater, you can trade them, and these contracts come with their own pool of special modifiers. And part of the design intent here was to have a sort of pre-endgame mapping system, because you can start running contracts as of like level 3. You just find them as world drops, and on average you should find about 1 per zone. So they're not terribly rare. Now if you want to, you could save them up and run them for later, or you can run them now. There won't be any mechanic that forces or encourages you to use up your contracts once you get them. It should be noted, however, that these contracts do have level requirements, so if you hold on to them for too long, you may just be severely out-leveling them. You'll note as well that contracts have requirements on them. For instance, requires lockpicking level 1. This means that you cannot go on this contract unless you hire a rogue that has the lockpicking skill of at least level 1. This means that the game will never put you in a position where you try to pull off a heist and then you require lockpicking, but you didn't bring a lockpicking class and therefore you're just blocked and it becomes impossible to solve. Now, typically when you think of a heist movie, you think of a lot of sneaking around and not too much high action scenes with tons of combat. But Chris Wilson did say, quote, "And to clarify here, this isn't a stealth game. While it may be important to occasionally stealth around the guards, it mostly is about killing monsters and picking up items, you know, like Path of Exile is. So when you're on the heist and you're going through the level, looking for the artifact, the rogue who's with you can help you fight guards. His main role is to overcome obstacles that you can't do yourself, like picking locks. And as you're traversing through the facility, any lockboxes you loot, any guards you kill, all this serves to increase the alert level. And if you reach maximum alert level, that's when you trigger the alarm. Once that happens, you have about 20 seconds to try to rush to the objective, because at the end of these 20 seconds, you're gonna get swarmed with guards. And if you die, you don't get to keep anything that you collected. So a heist goes either one of two ways. You either raise the alert level before reaching the artifact to the point where you raise the alarm, then you have 20 seconds before guards start coming after you, or you make it to the artifact without raising the alarm. Regardless of the situation, once you grab the artifact, guards instantly start coming after you. And you then have to fight your way back to the extraction point, and it can be challenging to survive all the guards. If you're powerful enough, you can just kill them, but it does sound like getting out once the guards are after you is a big challenge, and thus something you'd want to factor into your risk versus reward. If you stack too many mods on your contract, really upping the challenge and the reward, well, maybe you're just gonna get insta-killed once all those guards come for you. Successfully completing a heist also grants you some intel that'll be helpful for when you're planning a grand heist. Now, grand heists you don't get to do all that often, maybe once every 10 to 12 heists, so about once per act as you're playing through the campaign. A grand heist will involve multiple wings, and every wing will have its own alert level. And it's only once you've made your way through each wing that you're gonna reach the vault. And this vault will contain a selection of rewards that you can choose from, but you can only pick one. Now, to go on a grand heist, you need a blueprint, which is something similar to a contract but specific to grand heists. All this intel that you gather doing regular heists can be applied towards unveiling information on a blueprint. So between intel and markers, you can invest more and more into a blueprint to reveal more and more information, including alternate escape routes, which only become accessible to you if you actually reveal them. You can also reveal additional reward rooms, and the more you reveal, the more expensive it becomes to reveal more. So it's your choice at what point you decide enough's enough, let me just run this, or do I want to fully invest in fully revealing everything? Now, as we said, a grand heist consists of multiple wings. These are almost like individual contracts, in the sense that they each have their own alert level, they each have their own objective, and if you fail one, you don't fail the grand heist entirely. And unlike a contract, the reward at the end of each wing within a grand heist is an item that you get to keep. In fact, you'll be presented with 5 items, but you'll only get to keep 1. Now, you'll also get to equip your rogues with special items. These will be items that you can find during heists and grand heists, and they'll operate just like any other kind of gear in the game with regards to being able to craft on them. Now, as an example of an item, there's one rogue that you can hire that's a giant called Tibbs. And because he's a giant, he's not exactly stealthy, so you can either lean into the fact that he's not going to be stealthy and just deck him out with more damage, or you can give him 4 items that are going to make him stealthier, make him generate less alert level. And one thing that Chris Wilson stressed here was that they don't want to be forcing players to be stealthy. What they basically want is they want stealth to be an option for those who want to be stealthy. In essence, the idea is that the player gets to manage his stealth level. He gets to make choices and have to make difficult choices. You can go in there guns blazing, but let's say you happen to go to a lot of reward rooms, you've found some items that you really care about, really want to keep. Well, maybe at that point you'll decide, okay, I really want this, I'm gonna be extra careful, I'll be stealthy on my way out. So it's giving players more choice in how they approach things and weighing risk versus reward. And speaking of rewards, one type of new exclusive reward to Heist are Replica Unique items. And a Replica Unique is identical to its original version, but one or more of its mods has changed to make it functionally slightly different, with the general design purpose being to enable the item to be used in a different kind of build. And the game will have roughly 100 new Replica Unique items. So for instance, looking at this Iron Commander and its replica, you can see that the bottom 2 mods now make this item based on strength instead of dexterity. Also, instead of affecting Siege Ballista, it affects Shrapnel Ballista. As another example, Ambu's charge normally makes you gain an endurance charge when you take a critical strike, but the replica makes you gain an endurance charge when you take any hit. It does come at a great trade-off though, because a regular abuse charge makes you regenerate 2% of your life per second if you've taken a hit recently, whereas the replica makes you lose 2% of your life per second if you've been hit recently. So the idea really is to open up the opportunity for players to find new, crazy, interesting builds with these Replica Uniques. In addition to Replica Uniques, Heist introduces another new type of item called an experimented base type. For every type of weapon, Heist is introducing a new experimented base type. And there will also be several new varieties of jewelry with experimented base types. Each of these experimented base types offers something very different from the conventional base type of weapon. For instance, this Solarine bow implicitly adds fire damage, but its base physical damage is very low. Now, another new system in this league will be something called Heist Trinkets. And this is basically Path of Exile experimenting with a charm system. In Diablo 2, charms were items of different size that you keep in your inventory, and they have modifiers on them. They have affixes. Now, the implementation in Path of Exile here gives you a new itemization slot for a trinket. So you can only benefit from one single trinket at any given time. It's a separate slot. It doesn't take up room in your inventory. However, theoretically, you could hold a bunch of them in your inventory as much as you'd like and swap things out depending on the situation, depending on the reward. It should be noted for now that the trinkets all have modifiers that pertain to heists or heist activity. So some of them might be useful to you when outside of a heist, but it'll be helpful towards, for instance, getting more markers for heists. So for instance, if you're out in the world, you'll probably want a trinket that increases the number of markers you find, but then when you're going on a heist, you might want to swap that out for something else. And by design, all trinkets will be corrupted, so you cannot craft on them. If the devs see that trinkets are received well, then this could potentially pave the way for a more generalized charm system that applies to more than just heists. But if it turns out to be a system that is not received well, then because it's only relegated to heist activity, then they can easily remove it. Now, another type of reward that you can get from grand heists are alternate quality gems. So normally on a regular skill gem, as you increase its quality, it starts to gain some buff. For instance, on this Cast on Critical Strike support gem, with every 1% additional quality, supported skills have 1% increased attack and spell critical strike chance. So basically, in addition to what the skill gem normally does, quality makes it also give increased crit chance. But this alternate quality Cast on Critical Strike gem instead makes skills deal more attack damage. And this once again is intended to offer different build possibilities. The general theme of the new items, the new rewards in this league is opening up the possibilities for different variant build possibilities. And there are, wait for it, around 900 alternate quality gems coming with Heist. And a big part of this league is going to be that we're not going to know ahead of time what all of these things do. We're not going to have all this info at the start of a league of these are all the alternate quality gems, these are all the experimented base types, these are all the replica uniques. So as players discover all of these new things, that's when and how the new potential builds and variants will emerge. Now, another type of reward that you can get at the end of a grand heist is a weapon or body armor that has a heist enchantment on it. Now, enchantments are modifiers that don't take up any affix slots, so you can still have the maximum number of affixes plus the enchantment. And some of these enchantments are so powerful that they have to come with a drawback. And Chris Wilson said that some of these items can be, quote, brokenly OP, and that he's actually more worried about the power of these than the other rewards we've gone over. Now, another thing that's noteworthy about these enchanted rares is that they won't be completely random like regular rares. They're going to be skewed towards having desirable mods so that sometimes you won't even have to craft anything on it when you get it. Now, when it comes to multiplayer, you can join someone else's heist. Things operate as normal for the main host player. The player accompanying them doesn't get additional hirelings or anything like that, but because there's another player in the game, there will be more drops, more rewards. And normally when you die in a heist, the heist is over and you drop all your items. If you have someone with you, when you die and drop your items, well, that other person can pick up the items and still make it out. so you can have a better chance of at least someone making it out when things go bad. Now, outside of the Heist League mechanic, the devs are, of course, also introducing other changes and revisions to the game, and one is a new Doom mechanic for curses. In order to make handcasting curses great again, now when you handcast a curse, it builds up intensity over time. So you cast it, it has its base effect, as it would when you have a curse that's triggered, but in addition, when it's handcasted, through the Doom mechanic, it's going to get stronger and stronger with every elapsing second. Now, along with this, they're tweaking a bunch of existing curses and also adding new skills that interact with curses. For instance, the new support gem Impending Doom will cause cursed enemies to explode when the curse ends, and this only works for self-cast curses. And of course, this can be combined with different ways to prematurely end a curse, to give players more agency rather than just waiting for the duration to expire. Another thing the devs wanted to do was give some love to steel skills. Shattering Steel and Lancing Steel, while also introducing 2 new steel skills. To give them a unique identity, all steel skills will now use a shard mechanic. These shards serve as a form of ammo for steel skills, which still work without the shards, but they work even better with shards. And so if you have a steel skill equipped, you automatically have a skill called Call of Steel. And Call of Steel is basically your reload button, but so much more than that. At the start, assuming you have no shards at all, Call of Steel will simply summon shards for you, give you ammo. But then those shards can, through use of skills, impale themselves within enemies, and they stay there. And if you Call of Steel, you pull the shards back to you, wounding the enemy as you're ripping the metal out of them. It's a really cool mechanic. So the idea is basically that if you want to play perfectly optimally, there's a lot of ammo management to be done where you want to be using your shards, and then you want to be mindful of when you're calling the shards. Call your shards back for maximum effectiveness. Call the shards back before the enemy dies. We're also seeing some reworks to spells and 4 new spells added to the game. And the general theme of the new spells revolves around positioning. That you want to be rewarded for good positioning, you want to be able to think about your positioning of these spells. And one that I absolutely love is Flame Wall. As you'd expect, you create a wall of flame, which damages enemies if you summon it on them or if they walk through it. But the coolest thing is if you fire projectiles through the wall of flame, they catch fire. The projectiles will gain added fire damage when they strike an enemy. I love these kinds of skill interactions. Now, in addition to the 100 Replica Uniques that are being added to the game, with Heist, there will also be 25 entirely new regular unique items, like the Corpse Walker boots that literally leave corpses wherever you walk. And that's the new Path of Exile expansion. Heist will be launching on PC and Macs, finally now getting a Mac version, on September 18th, and on consoles on September 23rd. I'm loving the Heist mechanics, I can't wait to try it out. I love that GGG is always trying out these new crazy ideas, and that they find ways to test these new systems that they could potentially expand upon, or otherwise work into the game in bigger ways. And being able to release 4 expansions a year, each with its own unique idea, theme, mechanics, just requires a tremendous amount of thought, creativity, and I'm just happy that we continue to see this degree of innovation happening multiple times per year within the genre. And that's gonna wrap up this video. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider pledging on YouTube or Patreon and unlocking behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. Check out these other videos and subscribe to join Riker's Raiders for more gaming content.